you live with so many liars in the world, you wonder, is anybody out there telling the truth? And God's Word is 100% inspired, 100% inerrant. That means no error. It doesn't mean some translations could not have an error, because they do. But the Bible, given in its original Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek form, is 100% inspired. How do we know? Many proofs, but one of the greatest proofs is fulfilled prophecy. God tells the future, and He fulfills. He foretells, and He fulfills. Nobody else can do that but God. So that's exciting for me. So it's exciting to go back to Revelation, talk about it, and you'll see why today it's really practical, really relevant. So here are the four horsemen of the apocalypse in order. They're white, red, black, and the Bible says in English pale, but the Greek says chloros, so we're going to translate that into green. Like chlorophyll is green, chloros is green. Let's take a look at each one. Real quick. We're going to fly through this, all right? Revelation 6, let's start at verse 1. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, this is the beginning, okay? And I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. The next things I'm going to say cannot be stated on YouTube. They will erase this video, and they will give me a strike. So you will have to go to online church, discoverchurch.online, to be a subscriber. Or you can join my Telegram group, and we can have uncensored conversation there as well. But you can't upload long videos. So those are the two avenues. All right? Check out my Telegram, telegram.com/Chicolanti, my last name. Or just come and be a contributing member at discoverchurch.online. Okay, second seal. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, "Come and see." Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, that the people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. Obviously, we said this is war, but red can represent many things. There are many layers to the Bible, and it's not wrong to interpret it in various different ways, because it can be fulfilled in multiple facets, in multiple ways. Red is the color of blood, color of war, but it's also the color of communism and Marxism. And I think it's related. The invasion of Marxism into our Western Christian democracies is undermining freedom. That's why we got the problems we got. The red horse has been unleashed. And they try to take peace, or they will end up taking peace from the earth, meaning there was peace. You know, under Trump, there was peace. Under Trump, the guy that was supposedly so dangerous, all the media was assigned to say how dangerous he was. It was an assignment. It was a takedown, a coordinated takedown. And yet, we had peace. America started no new war. They were wrapping up other wars. They were killing the terrorists. That's all that was happening. Freeing Christian hostages like no other presidency had ever done. Getting Christians out of persecution in Turkey, North Korea, and other places. All that is documented in my book, Trump's Pro-Christian Accomplishments. You can't even find these things on the internet anymore. But we didn't like peace, evidently. And as soon as Biden came in, his assignment was to take peace from the earth. And so Ukraine started threatening Russia and saying, we're going to join NATO. And then a great sword was given. I think this is yet to be fulfilled. A great sword is a great weapon. This is probably an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse bomb, or a nuclear bomb. I think we're waiting for that. But they seem to be concurrent. The next horse seems to be galloping as well. Verse 5 of chapter 6, when the Lamb broke the third seal, I heard the third living being say, "Come." I looked up and I saw a black horse. This is so obvious now what it is. And its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice from among the four living beings saying, "A loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay, a denarius in King James or in the Greek. And don't waste the olive and wine. Okay, black, so obvious now. The whole world economy is in tatters, is in ruins because of the black commodity, oil, petroleum. They knew what to attack. It's a coordinated attack on the price of oil, and the price has gone up through the roof. The pain at the pump is being felt everywhere, and once you have pain at the pump, you will have high food prices because food needs to be transported. Why does food need to be transported? Because you don't know how to grow food. The solution is actually quite simple. You can learn to grow food in such a way that you never need to buy anymore. But they created a distribution system that they control, and that makes you slaves. So people have become slaves to money and then slaves to the distribution system. So if they can cut off money, most people will starve to death. And most people have no access to the distribution. But what if we all grew our own food? And what if we all shared our own food in our own community? This is why we have church. Then we don't need to depend on that. So you see, the agricultural bill that's passed in Victoria makes a direct attack on food suppliers and food growing. So they know what they're doing. They're engineering high oil prices, oil shortages, which then has a knock-on effect, knock-down effect with food shortages, which then would lead people to become more independent and grow their own food. So they're making laws about, well, you're not compliant to grow food, or you're not allowed to have so many birds, you're not allowed to have so many trees or whatever. So they're preparing this already. They've already passed that bill. So expensive bread means inflation, food shortages, and famine. Then the fourth seal, very interesting. I thought, what could this be? And I've given you one very plausible candidate. I still maintain that's true, but now it's become so obvious what it is. And this is the nature of prophecy. God says it in a way that seems cryptic until it gets fulfilled. That way, nobody says, oh, well, it's so obvious. These are not real predictions. It's like Nostradamus says, one day there will be a war. Well, that's dumb. Anybody can say that. But when you have these details and these colors and these symbols, and in the order that they're in, the sequence matter, the colors matter, and you're going to see why. So I looked, and behold, a pale or a green horse. The Holman says a pale green horse. And the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades or Hell followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. Now I tell you what, if you heard this 20 years ago, I don't care how smart a prophecy teacher you are, there's a bit of a mystery in this. But this thing here, I now understand. To kill with hunger means a shortage of plants. But to kill with death means you intentionally call the cattle. You intentionally kill the animals. And that's what the next propaganda is, the foot and mouth disease. They already said to us in Australia, get ready, by next month we won't have milk, cheese, butter, yogurt, because if any virus comes in, and of course a virus can come in, it's the easiest thing to bring a virus in. But they said if any virus comes in, they're going to have to slaughter all the animals. So they kill us with death. They kill us with the death, the intentional death of farm animals. So what's coming up next? The color black gives us a huge clue. The color black, the black horse, tells us what this is going to be about, how they're going to achieve this type of control worldwide. From the World Economic Forum and from Klaus Schwab himself, they have stated time and time again, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is parroting the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. They get like a script and they say the same thing. They're all claiming fossil fuel is too cheap, too plentiful. So what they're crying is, raise the price of oil so we can transition to a green economy. So they're very happy right now that we're suffering. What they do then is they go to leaders of poor countries, because leaders of poor countries, first of all, they don't have money, and they're corrupt, and they would love to take a bribe. So they go to leaders of poor countries and promise them money to leave fossil fuel and go green. If you don't understand this, it is happening right now. It's already happened in Ghana. It's a plan that started and it went under the radar during the lunar tetrad. I told you when the tetrad came in 2014 to 2015, a lot of things were happening, and some of it we won't even know until the end. Well, one of the things that happened in 2015 was that at that time, Ghana was a prosperous, one of the most successful countries in Western Africa. They were a prosperous oil exporting nation. So what did the World Bank do? In 2015, the World Bank, which is a misnomer, it's just the Western powers, right? They call themselves United Nations, it's Western powers. They call themselves World Bank, it's Western elite power. The World Bank approved the largest ever financial guarantee for Ghana's energy transformation. Anything trans they like. And so what did Ghana do? Ghana went for it. They went from exporting oil to shutting down their oil production. And what's the result? They now have rolling blackouts. Major cities, major population centers with millions of people have no electricity. And you know what they found out? If you have no electricity, you don't have water. You need electricity to pump water. So if you don't have water, you don't have an agriculture. And so they are now experiencing water shortages, food shortages, and there are riots in the capital city. And do you think they apologize? Do you think they say, sorry, we took money from the World Bank, we lined our own pockets and our family's wealth with the World Bank's biggest guarantee? Why would the biggest guarantee go to Ghana? What is so strategic and important about Ghana? But they enriched themselves to the tune of $700 billion. That was the guarantee. And they don't apologize. They send the military, the police in riot gear, to shoot rubber bullets and water guns at their own people. And guess what? We've seen that here, right here in Melbourne, Australia. They don't apologize. They don't let up. They don't say, we live in a democracy and the will of the people has been expressed, therefore we need to change. No. The will of the people doesn't matter because they have a Marxist globalist agenda, because the intellectuals from Western Europe believe they're smarter than you. And that same philosophy is what caused World War I and World War II, and now we're going to World War III. And some people dispute me on that, and fine, have your own theory about it. But we have Ghana, we also have Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a rich nation, should be a rich nation, rich in sun, soil, water. It ought to be a self-sufficient economy. Instead, the globalists turned Sri Lanka into a tea economy to feed their lusts for tea. Remember, the British Empire went all over the world just to look for tea and salt and spices. The globalists promised Sri Lanka that a green transition would be the path to prosperity. And you see it right now, what has happened. This is a direct result of green transformation. They're out of fertilizer, they're out of oil, the people are hungry, there are food shortages, there is an actual insurrection, not a fake January 6th committee insurrection, a real insurrection where the presidential palace has been stormed and taken over. And what do? They don't apologize. They don't say, the will of the people has been spoken. They say, get out of here, you plebeians, you little people. And they send the military and the police to clear the presidential palace. You don't belong. You don't get to swim. You don't get to eat. Only the elites do. And if you think, well, those are all the brown people of the world, the third world nations of the world, guess what? The food shortages are beginning in the Netherlands. I'm just telling you, I know that half of you don't believe me. At least five virgins don't believe me, but 5 do. That's what the Bible says. But I'm just going to tell you, because I'm not going to preach on end time every time. But it's happening in the Netherlands. The WEF installs leaders, mainly in Western nations, and its puppet in the Netherlands has mandated, just recently, a 70 to 95% reduction in nitrogen emission. Well, you know that farmers need NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus to grow food. And they need that because of the way that we killed the soil. That's another story. So going green and having not only zero carbon, they want zero nitrogen, will destroy small farmers. They will have to sell off their land so the elites can own more land, and it will turn the farmers into indentured servants. They'll be slaves. It's the new kind of slavery. But Europe knows this. If you know European history, that's how the elites had always controlled the majority of people. This will result in Europe, in modern Western Europe, an engineered famine, and the farmers are going out to protest. But you saw what happened in Canada. The farmers went out to protest, the truckers went out to protest, and Justin Trudeau says, get me the names of all the protesters. We're going to make a law that we can shut down their bank accounts. That ended the protest. You see why they want to control whether you can buy or sell. This is going straight to Revelation 13. It's the prelude. They realize you will protest if you're hungry. Every revolution in Western Europe, you study it. When the people got hungry, there was civil war. And when there was civil war, it was off with their head. Europeans have cut kings and queens' head off because they were hungry. And they've learned from history. The elites have learned from history. So they said, first of all, we're going to make sure you're so dumb you don't know how to grow your own food. Next of all, we're going to make you love money, this paper thing that we just print at our own will. We're just going to print it, and you're going to love it and depend on it. And that's what we have. People wake up and do stuff for money. You may not understand this, but the volunteer culture is more than just for God or for the church. It is partly for you to do something without being motivated by money. It is important that you learn to volunteer sometime. But people don't think that way. They say, why would I volunteer in church? I don't get money. If I don't get money, I'm not doing it. Well, when they turn off your money, you're going to die because you don't know anything else but being a servant of money. So I would say wean yourself off money because cash is going to become trash in the near future. So you can see that the oil, which is the black horse, leads to the green energy transition, which is the green horse. What other religious book in the world not only predicts the future, but tells you exactly it goes from the black horse into the green horse? And what's the thing that will deceive the whole world? Is climate change religion, where nature is God. While they're destroying the earth and destroying farms, they say they're saving the planet. What deeper delusion has ever been created by mankind? And while we starve ourselves and kill people and kill farmers, people feel they are virtuous because they're paying homage to zero carbon and now zero nitrogen is coming. You wait. Most people don't know yet. But they're never going to stop. I told you, evil will not stop. Zero carbon is ridiculous. Zero nitrogen is even more ridiculous. So should you prepare? It's up to you, but here's the practical stuff that you haven't heard from other people.